Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dave Nadler from the National Weather Service in Peachtree City, here to give you a quick update on the latest weather conditions and the anticipated severe weather potential through the rest of the day into the night. What you're seeing right now is the latest temperatures. You can see a good portion of our area are generally in the 50s to lower 60s. A lot of this is a result of the rain and thunderstorm activity we had earlier today. Has actually reinforced what we call the cold pool farther to the south and west into parts of South Georgia. So as you can see, we've been talking about that warm front, where it's going to set up today into tonight. Over the past couple of days, we've been discussing that. And right now, you can see that the front sets up right across the extreme South Georgia and then on up into South Alabama, Southwest Alabama, where to the south of the front, temperatures have warmed up nicely into the lower to mid 80s. To the north of the front, temperatures are in the 50s and 60s. So that's where we sit right now. If you look at we overlay the radar, a lot of this activity that's moving in across the quote unquote cooler air is what we call elevated convection. Heavy rain, certainly a potential with some lightning, but we're not looking at any severe threat, any immediate severe threat at the moment. So that's the latest looking at the current conditions. Switching over to the infrared satellite, wanted to show some areas. Basically, the main part of the storm system is still way out over parts of eastern Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana at this time. And you can see the brighter oranges and darker colors embedded in the satellite here is where you can see the increase in thunderstorm activity. All of this is going to be moving our way over the next few hours and then certainly into the overnight hours. So we still have a long ways to go before this system clears our area. So there's a little bit of a lull right now. You can see on radar all that activity back across eastern Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and into Mississippi and Alabama. That's all going to be moving east and across parts of north and central Georgia through the night, through the rest of the day and into the overnight hours and early morning on Monday. All right, so let's take a look at some of the higher resolution model data. Going to take one of the models that fairly reliable, kind of looking at where we're at right now. This is about 5 o'clock this afternoon, current time. Basically moving forward over the next few hours, you can see activity across parts of South Alabama, South and Central Alabama starting to move to the northeast into the evening hours. This is about 8 o'clock tonight. Based on this model, the greater severe threat remains along and south of that warm front, which right now, as we just talked about earlier, is way down across far south Georgia. So that's good news for us at this point. However, as we push through the evening hours and into the overnight, especially as the main area of low pressure that's kicking across Mississippi and Alabama moves into Georgia, that relatively warmer, moist air is expected to shift a little bit farther to the north across parts of middle Georgia, and that's where we could still see additional rounds of thunderstorms, and that's where the severe weather potential could ramp up quite a bit through the nighttime hours tonight into the early morning hours on Monday. So this is about 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and you can still see with this particular model that some of the thunderstorm and the severe threat still lingering over parts of our east central counties in Georgia. Just switching gears, going to go back to about 10 o'clock tonight, looking at another model, pretty similar, and it, showing where the better thunderstorm activity, the higher risk for severe weather is more across south parts of Alabama and southern Georgia. But then as the whole entire system ejects across the area, the threat for severe weather does try to push a little bit farther to the north across parts of middle Georgia overnight tonight and into the early morning hours on Monday. So as I mentioned earlier, we're not out of the woods yet. Good portion of middle Georgia remains in a threat to see severe weather throughout the rest of the evening and into the overnight hours. So we're definitely going to have to continue to monitor this situation. Okay, latest watches and warnings. The yellow boxes way out across Mississippi, that's where the latest tornado watch is in effect. We have flash flood watches that are in green across much of middle in parts of North Georgia. That's in effect until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Heavy rain threat, especially for some areas that are going to see repetitive heavy rain and storms moving across the area through the overnight hours, where we could see an additional like 2 to 3 or 4 inches of rain. Certainly will increase the flood and flash flood potential. So we'd have that flash flood watch in effect right now. Most of the severe thunderstorm warnings and the orange boxes you see are back across Mississippi and parts of southwest Alabama at this point. So that is what we're looking at right now. And then did want to show you the latest graphic we put together earlier, basically looking at the tornado risk. Basically any areas in yellow and red here stand a chance to basically see a threat of tornadoes, even in the brown areas, but definitely from LaGrange over towards Milledgeville, the Louisville area, to along and south of that area, basically through the rest of today into tonight, especially as we head into the evening and overnight hours. This is where we continue to see a risk for tornadoes. And even a strong tornado is not out of the question still, as this system evolves and ejects across the area overnight into the morning hours. Also wanted to show you the damaging wind potential. Similar areas a little bit farther to the north with the potential of seeing some damaging wind gust, even in the the more stable air mass across parts of the I-20 corridor. There's still a potential to see some damaging winds with some storms that move across the area later on this afternoon through the overnight hours. But the higher risk is definitely going to be farther to the south of our area, especially, again, from that south of a line from LaGrange to Macon, Milledgeville, Louisville area. Along and south of there is where we're going to really focus the potential for damaging winds along with the tornadoes. Okay, and finally, I did want to show you just real quickly how much we've already seen in spots. Some areas have gotten anywhere from an inch to an inch and a half of rain, locally higher amounts from this morning's activity. This is the latest expected additional rainfall that we could see across the area. A good chunk of basically along and south of the I-85 corridor could still see another 1 to 2, maybe even 3 inches of rain, basically from now, which is about 5 o'clock, all the way through the overnight hours into the early morning hours on Monday. So any additional rainfall, and certainly where we could see pockets of higher rainfall, will certainly increase the flood potential and localized flash flooding as well. So we'll also be continuing to monitor that through the overnight hours. And any additional updates that we do through video or email we'll share with you, especially if anything changes through the evening hours.